really is a beautiful morning. Third week of June. The rain has let up for a day or so. So things are looking pretty good. Cootie here, not too bothered about us. Life is good. When we enlarged this waterway, one of the biggest problems was controlling the water level. So we dug this little canal along the side of the driveway and created a new exit. So the canal brings the water up the side of the driveway and it stops here. From here on, there's a 10-inch pipe that runs out to the county road and into the ditch to drain away further east. And the problem has been that the water level has fluctuated so much because of this outlet. There was no way to control it. And so after a week or 10 days, the water level dropped almost a foot on the pond. So we brought up these rocks and laid in here to build a riprap dam. And the idea being that as the water level rises, it will eventually come across the top here and down into that 10-inch pipe when the time is right, and away. We pushed this road in here last year, which was a job well done. It needed, because otherwise this is just swamp, and eventually it'll give us access out to the bridge and the other areas out there. So this patch we've got a lot of cleanup to do, but as you can see, the water is endless. The truck is sitting in a lake. So it's going to be a day or two before we're moving here. But this is another project I want to get done this year so that I can spot this truck in position where it's going to be. And this is a house truck conversion project we've got on the go. So once we get it into position on hard dry standing, we can putz away at that. We got a bunch of weed whacking done, especially around the wall here. Gets away on you after a while. And we did get the skid steer going and spread the pile of topsoil. Extremely soft and wet in there. You can see by the ruts that the skid steer made. I nearly buried it a couple of times, but she did crawl out of there. So we'll let this dry out, work it over. Looks like the horses have been across it already, helping pack it down. And see how things progress. Sunday evening, cooling off. I brought the hoe out the back here because the water level is getting so high that we had to do something about it. I brought the hoe in and dug a ditch and just let her go. And man, is it going. Sometimes it's difficult to grasp how much water flows through these ponds. Quite incredible. So it will make its way through here under the bridge into the next pond, and then down the canal and out that 10-inch pipe heading east, running on downstream. Last year the pond all but dried up, everything. There was just a little bit of water left here. the ducks were in dire straits. The water rats all left. And this year, yep, we're back to don't know what to do with it all. The water's flowing this way, and you can see here under the bridge, you can see the flow. Just how much water. It's almost like a river. And as those hundreds of thousands of gallons of water floods this way, the canal is getting higher and starting to climb up towards our overflow. So I expect by the time it's dark, it will be flowing across the top and down the pipe. There's going to be some happy ducks and geese for sure. In the past, we've had to have this panel, a steel gate panel blocking the entrance into the garden because the horses would get in there. And over the years, this beautiful arch has grown with these Manitoba maples and the poplars to produce a lovely covered walkway. Pushed a couple of posts in, some rails either side, keep the horses out, a hinge kit from Lowe's, and the gate itself is just a pallet. It was a pretty good pallet, a heavy duty one, a little bit of plastic chain on here to secure it. And you can see here where the blocks were for the pallet frame. So we just stripped it back, put a diagonal brace on there to give it some support, and she'll go again. Cheap and cheerful, and works really well. We'll put some deck stain on this, try and help it last. Now, I don't usually publish information about some of the work I do, but this is one that we are going to. This is Theresa's bus, Alberta Schoolie Adventures, on YouTube, and Modine 5 on Instagram. And this has been a real headache, this vehicle. Theresa was hitting the wall quite literally with the Ford dealer and other diesel shops. So long story short, we were getting diesel fuel and antifreeze mixed in the fuel filter. And this is what we found. When we pulled the injector out, this is a 7.3 litre injector. Now you've got three distinct areas. This is your high pressure oil gallery running through here. So you've got O-rings at the top, O-ring at the bottom. The next one down is your fuel gallery. And out of each gallery you can see the port going into the injector there for the fuel, and another one here for the oil. So these are quite separate and sealed. This high pressure oil can be running up to 3,000 pounds pressure. Your fuel is typically 50 to 60. And beneath this O-ring is your injector cup, which holds the antifreeze in here, so that the bottom of the injector where the heat is actually surrounded by coolant to help keep the temperature down. So we have a seal here, a seal here, a seal on the inside here, and then the injector cup itself is sealed into the engine here and here. And what we were getting was coolant passing from the antifreeze side into the fuel rail. Normally it goes the other way because this pressure is much greater than the coolant, which is maybe 5, 10, 15 pounds at the most. So typically the liquid will go that way. Well, in this case it was going the other. We were getting coolant into the fuel system. So we've changed the cups, as you can see, all 8 are out. And what did we find? Right there is a crack running down there. And if we look over here, you can see another crack in this cup, right there. And the cracks go right through, so they're not scratches. So this led us on a merry old chase. Normally you would see fuel getting into the cooling system and filling your radiator up and overflowing your radiator bottle. In this case it was going the other way. Very, very difficult to detect. And the only way is to pull it out and change the cups. So there we are. Our mystery is solved. Hopefully the new installations are sealed good. You can see here on this one, you can see the green around here. This is the sealant that was used to seal the bottom and the top. It's a Loctite type of product, good for high pressure, high temperature. So we got this back in, and now all we have to do is finish buttoning the engine up. We're still waiting on some parts, fuel lines to be replaced. We've got a bad power steering hose down here, is corroding, so in light of the work that it takes to change it, we're just going to do it now and be on the safe side, because it would be misery to do it later on when everything's back together. We've put a new crank positioning sensor in here, although I've since deduced that the other one is probably still okay, but we've eliminated everything we can. So hopefully Theresa will be back on the road and you can watch her refreshed videos with new gusto and exuberance. There's Master Joe and Sooty enjoying the last days of summer. Thought we'd go for a little bit of a walkabout this morning. The wind is blowing a bit, but it's not too bad. Done very little work on the cabin this summer. We're now into September. On the odd rainy day, we've got some work done inside, insulating, putting vapor barrier and wiring upstairs. That's going to be more of a winter project. Last fall we pushed this road in north off the driveway, and just in the last week we got the concrete pad laid out here and moved the van truck in. This is a house truck conversion project we're doing that hopefully will end up as an Airbnb, something like that. Just as an overnighter beside the water. Should be nice. We stripped a bunch of the old cedar siding off the old house prior to demolishing it. Some descendants of the original owners came out the other day just to take a look for old time's sake, and initially we thought it was built during the war around 1943 through 45. They say it's actually older than that. They thought it was from the 1930s that it was built. Perhaps we'll never know. But we're salvaging everything we can out of it. The cedar siding. But one of the most intriguing things I've seen is this downspout on the eaves trough. All these years later, the galvanizing is still good. The joints were all soldered. With a diverter valve down here to either send water outside to soak away, or inside, and it went through into the basement to be held in a tank down below. These two were once mortal enemies, and now they're pretty much inseparable from one another. And up here is our latest arrival, the Terror of the 12. Oh. Mr. Dibbs, also known as Gnarly. Oh, oh. And Sooty is so good with him. Licks him and cleans him. Doesn't he? Uncle Sooty is so good with you. So good.